Hey, this is Ryan Kebe with Armstrong Neighborhood Channel, coming to you with another edition of Kebe's Community. And today I am joined by a very special guest, the president for Svetz Consulting, Mr. Gary Svetz. Gary, how are you doing? Thanks for coming on.
Like everybody else, every day is different, and we're just hoping that people can get through this crisis, and hopefully they're safe, healthy, and first and secure. And then, trying to do business in this environment is challenging. So,
absolutely, and that's one of the reasons that we're here right now is to talk about our small businesses in our community and everything that's going on that's directly impacting them. And with that being said, I want to give you a chance to give us a little bit of background about yourself and the consulting business that you run and how that affects, and helps small businesses out in our community.
So we've been in business since 1996 and working with small businesses on their plans, on any strategic goals, customer service, marketing, a variety of business options for them to focus on what they want to do, whether it's in all sectors, retail, service, manufacturing, even nonprofit organizations. So we've been working with small business for quite some time. We have put in entrepreneur programs, one in Venango County, which we started back in 2004, called Small Business Jumpstart, and we've expanded that for a veterans program that's free of charge. And we have a variety of other, Meadville, we piloted a program last fall, and then also piloting a program in Corey, Pennsylvania as well. And basically the businesses that we've worked with in those programs are 30 employees or under, but we are also working with very large organizations too on their different strategies and things that they need to be successful. So right now, everybody needs some assistance or work in some ways. And so we're trying to help them in a variety of ways, just to put information out there that's up to date and detailed, as we can screen it and sort it out for them. We've been just sharing that freely as much as possible, doing a column on a Facebook page called Small Business Jumpstart, where everybody can access that would need it. So there's just a lot of information out there, and some of it's accurate, some of it's off. And so as we get that, we trying to steer people, and we do executive coaching and business coaching along the way, just anywhere we can fill in to get people through this time. And in normal times, if there was such a thing, we're always working with people in their growth phase and actually in the phase where they need some help, or the startup phase. So everything can be challenging to a business along the way in their cycles. And so we help them out all through that.
A lot of stuff to unpack there. And one of the things that you touched on too that I think is very important is, how this situation is just changing minute by minute, day by day. We're getting new information literally every single minute, and it's important to make sure that you're checking that information. We're going to make sure that we put a link for the Facebook page for the Small Business Jumpstart. Make sure that you guys check that out. But then, gonna go into specifics here with, what kind of strategies would you be recommending, during this time? I mean, this is unprecedented. What types of strategies would you recommend, Gary?
So as a small business, we know that our personal funds or assets are tied to our business assets, because a small business owner, sometimes they mix the two in some ways. And so first of all, 3 weeks ago, I said, hey, first, keep your family safe, secure, making sure you have contacts, making sure they're all taken care of, even, your older relatives, those type of people that are susceptible to a virus. So safety and security first, and then actually implement those things in your business for your employees. The second thing is develop a personal budget, 1 month, maybe 3 months, because we don't know how long this will last. I think we're all knowing now that's going to last a lot longer than we first all thought. just with lockdowns and everything else. But the business cycle may take a longer period of time to recover. And I think we all believe that. So, put your personal budget together and make sure you look at your payables every month and look at what you can afford, and maybe look to your lenders, to your suppliers, whether it's personal or business, to look for payment terms, to try to barter some services or products. But the idea is try to conserve cash when you can. The average business owner, small business owner, only has 30 to 45 days of free cash. So obviously, since this is initiated, a lot of them are at the end of their cash reserves. So that's one of the issues. So you want to be personally financially secure as much as possible. And then the second thing is, okay, let's move on to the business. You develop a 1 month plan and then a 3-month plan at least, and then see what you need to do. Right now, it comes down to employees. If you have employees, what do you do with them? I know a lot of businesses owners I talk to don't want to lay people off. So the Paychecks Protection Plan program is there to try to maintain employees for at least 8 weeks, or at least through September, as a kind of a loan converted to a grant. And so there's an application process for that, and there's up to 2.5 times a average monthly payroll. Those funds can be used for rent, mortgage / utilities, those type of expenses. But the actual payroll expenses, which means more than the wages, it's all the other associated taxes and benefits that should be put in that calculation. Once you get that application processed, for yourself, or have a professional help you, then you want to work with an FDIC lender, and also a bank that you're used to see if they're going to process those applications. The system goes up supposedly, and I got some bad news. Last Friday it crashed. This Friday, we're hoping it does work, and it should go through a bank processing procedure. So a lot of my bank contacts have said, we still don't have the details. So I've recommended to our clients or to companies or organizations, because nonprofits can apply, veterans groups, and sole proprietors and gig workers can apply for this funds, that they want to be more ready than not and try to get it into the bank's hands. So I do recommend that you look at that program, because there's no collateral required and there's no personal guarantees. Some of the Pennsylvania loans require personal guarantees, collateral, blanket liens, those type of things. So it gets complex. So this loan can be partially forgiven depending on how many people you bring back into your company or organization and maintain that for a period of time. If you do use some of the funds for the other costs, that can be forgiven too. But if you have additional funds that you use for operating expenses and a variety of other things that are not covered, it's at a 0.5% interest rate. And so that's, I think, over 2 years. So there's some leeway there that even if you have more funds, you can pay that loan back that's not been forgiven, the amount that's not been forgiven. You're only allowed about 25% of that amount of money for other expenses. I know that's a lot, and I know everybody's struggling with, how do I calculate that? How do I put it on paper? So I always tell people, put your payroll costs together with all the expenses associated with payroll and come up with an average monthly expense. They will utilize your recent tax return as data and backup information as well. So you want to be in line with your tax return information.
Absolutely.
There's several other programs.
That was a lot of good information. That was a lot of good information. So one of the programs that you touched on there, I believe, was the Paychecks Protection Program. Is that right?
Right. Yes.
Okay.
And that's the main one. The 3 areas that I'm looking at. Yeah, the 3 things I'm looking at is you first get with your lender, the people that know you best in your business. you talk to them about options and talk about, maybe your credit line, which is a revolving line that businesses have. I always recommend they have one just to cover their cycles and payroll or other expenses that they pay back. And then usually they have a commercial loan. This is the time that communicate more with your lender than less. So you want to make sure you can maybe stretch out the payments. I know people that have mortgages can talk with their bank or mortgage lender, and most of them are giving a 3-month leeway and relief without penalty, without additional fees, and no impact on your credit report, which is one of the things you're trying to maintain throughout this whole process is your credit, because it's key to getting loans and funds. So the idea here is trying to extend your payments over longest period of time as possible to conserve your cash flow.
Interesting. Well, hey, I know where I'm going to go to whenever I start my small business, Gary. Sounds like you're absolutely very knowledgeable. And
well, I mean, no one's too knowledgeable right now. You can't have enough knowledge. Yeah. I mean, There's lots of sources. Absolutely. The SBA website is good because the SBA, the Disaster Relief Fund, is a quick process to apply, and it's $10,000, not to be paid back. Then you have additional SBA loans that can be utilized, and there's an interest associated with them, but usually a low interest. So the idea is you want to try a diversification of funding sources that have the least amount of requirements that would be long-term impact on your business. So that's why I like the ones that are more of a grant or very low interest with flexible payment terms. And I like the ones that don't require a lot of documentation and sign off on, you don't want to lose your collateral, because collateral is helpful for additional loans and borrowing in the future. So you got to treat collateral as cash almost in your business. And some businesses, like a manufacturing, might have a lot of collateral in their equipment, but some service businesses don't have a lot of collateral. So based on what they do. So you got to be very careful with what you're putting up as collateral, because what happens if you decide not to do business anymore? You maintain your personal life, but the business goes away. I have recommended to some businesses that are very seasonal or very retail orientated that you might just want to stop business for 3 months and come back out when the environment makes sense for you. Because I don't want to see people pull on their personal finances too much to try to keep their business going, because they should try to conserve on their personal assets, because that's all they got, whether it's a house or the retirement account or some other emergency funds. I want them to maintain their family life or their personal assets so they can retire or switch gears and do something else. So I do recommend that if a business is one that's very impacted, shut down. Maybe you need to shut down. If you think you can start back up, you might conserve money that way as well. I know I don't like to say that, but these are the times that I think you have to make some very tough decisions, but you need to preserve your personal wealth and finances.
Absolutely. So
now there is a provision on retirement. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Okay. Retirement accounts. I just like to mention this because when I have entrepreneurs and they, sometimes they say, well, I can use my 401k or I could use my IRA or whatever. And I'm like, that's the last thing I want to use as a funding source. Though I know people will use it at times. I've had entrepreneurs use it, some older folks that, that's what they got to start a business or after they retired from something or got laid off. So, but that's for something else. That's for something in the future if possible. Even though the government is saying to people, we're going to waive the 10% penalty if you're 59 and a half and younger. But I look at that as a detriment that now you're making money that really should be for a long-term goal and making it readily available. And that doesn't work very well. And I think that doesn't help the person overall in their life, especially when they're looking for a long-term retirement fund, because Social Security does not cover a lot of retirement costs and living costs when you're ready to retire.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Got to be looking at the long term. And like I was going to say, with us talking about small businesses here, I also want to, mention, hey, now is the time to make sure that you are shopping local. If you have an opportunity to, get some takeout at that restaurant down the road, do it. That is still, a viable option to get food. And, as long as you're practicing social distancing, I mean, there's no problem with it. So, if you can shop local, absolutely do that. Gary, is there, you brought a lot of great information to the table here that I'm sure is going to help a lot of small business owners in our area. Is there anything else specific that you want to make sure that we highlight?
Well, one of the things that have come up with some of our business owners is that the unemployment compensation program, where it adds $600 a week to people's standardized calculation wages that they would normally get for unemployment, and actually extend 13 weeks too, which is good. But the extra 600, people are going to look at that, and business owners look at it a little interesting, because people are going to could make more money in 8 weeks through the end of July, or I'm sorry, three to 4 months to the end of July, with $600 more per week on top of their unemployment, which will be considered all unemployment, versus them working. So it's kind of interesting that it could be a disincentive for people to go back to work because they can make more. And some of my business owners are looking at like, I want these people back because I don't want to lose them. I've trained them. I've invested time in them. I know what they can do. They got skills that we truly need as a business, even though we may be in a low point of a business cycle. I don't want them to go away. So how do we stay connected with them? So we take this Paychecks Protection Program, okay, which is supposed to maintain employees, but now we have this $600 bonus in a way. I mean, everybody needs money to live, but it's $600 on top, and it's going to try to help people as well. But there's some conflict there, if you know what I mean. It's just people may realize that they could be off for a while and make more money. I'm not sure everybody thinks that way, but there's there are some issues. So when you put a bill together, you don't want to see how sausage is made, and you don't want to see how a bill is made, and so the two can conflict. So we're seeing some interesting conversation about, 75% of my people can make more money on unemployment. What do I do? And so everybody believes that there will be recovery. It's just, what the length of time is, but you still need people. And I think most employers want to do the right thing, but there's some options here for workers that are kind of interesting.
Absolutely. And like you said, hey, we all gotta keep our eye on that light at the end of the tunnel. This will pass at some point. And we just all need to stay positive and continue to listen to the experts and what they're telling us to do. And, we just got to stick together throughout this process. Gary, thank you so much for coming on. And like I said, we're going to post your information in this video and in the description. And, please reach out to Gary if you have any consulting needs for your small businesses. Thanks again, Gary.
I appreciate it, Ryan. Thanks for having me on. And like I said, we're trying to do all we can do for our clients and everybody in the business community. So let's get through this. Let's be safe first. Have a great day.
Absolutely. You too.